Beatrice and Felix became friends at the college, and in their third year they got married. It wasn't easy for Beatrice to study, so Felix did her coursework and essays, helped her with tests, and even wrote her diploma project. Instead, Beatrice was able to make good money. Right after graduation, she got into a company selling perfumes. Sales went well, and soon Beatrice became a bit conceited, and her attitude towards her husband changed. After the graduation, Felix got a job in a web design studio. At that time, he was only a junior developer and earned much less than his wife. Beatrice nagged him for bringing much less money into the house than she did, and suggested he quit his job and go into sales. No matter how Felix tried to explain to his wife that the sale was a temporary thing, and sooner or later her luck might run out, but his work was stable. Unfortunately, Beatrice did not listen. She more and more often came home late at night, and when her husband asked her where she'd been, she answered that she had been working. One day, Felix shared his idea with Beatrice. He decided to open his own web studio and invited his wife to take part in it. In response, Beatrice laughed hysterically. "Participate in what? Your crazy idea? Do you even know how much money it takes to open a web design studio? How much does it cost to rent an office, equipment? Have you thought about where you're going to find clients?" Felix answered that he had already calculated everything and found out that the loan will be approved against the mortgage of the apartment. He also had found where to buy the computer equipment by installments and got a favorable offer to rent in a good place at low prices. Beatrice immediately changed her face. "Have you lost your mind? Do you want to leave us without a place to live? Have you forgotten how a couple of years ago you opened a computer assembly firm, and then my father had to pay your debts? You're a loser. You better get back to making your own websites while your employer keeps you at your job. You know very well that it wasn't my fault it happened, and I paid your father back a long time ago. You didn't want to help me then, so I started business with a dishonest acquaintance. Anyway, I have already made up my mind, and I know for sure that everything will work out this time. So I ask again, are you with me or not?" Beatrice looked at her husband angrily and said that when she saw real results, then perhaps she would join him. Felix did not talk his wife into it and went on with his business, no longer sharing his plans and ideas with her. He took out a loan against the apartment he inherited from his grandfather. Then he rented an office, made repairs there, and purchased equipment. It took him several months to make all the preparations. Felix quit his day job and did not bring money into the house while preparations were being made. For the first time after opening a web design studio, things were going very badly. There were almost no clients, and the profits from the first customers barely covered the overhead and the loan repayment. Beatrice gloated, and one day told her husband that her patience was running out, and she was not going to waste the best years of her life on him. She packed her things, called him, as usual, a loser, loudly slammed the door, and left for good. Felix was very upset, because he had done all this for her, to be able to fulfill her dreams of a carefree life. He wrapped his arms around his head and thought. Now he had no use for the studio he had started. The incentive was gone, but the man decided that he would still continue what he'd planned, and when Beatrice saw his achievements, she would certainly come back. Time passed, but everything remained the same. Felix missed his wife and tried to win her back. He called her every night, promised that everything would be fine, said that he just needed time, and asked her to support him for the last time. But every time he heard in response that he was a failure. Soon Beatrice blocked his number and filed for divorce. One day, a young woman walked into Felix's office. She timidly introduced herself as Mary and said she had a business offer. It turned out that she rented an office on the floor above and promoted companies in the market and attracted clients. She needed a website to advertise her services, and in return, she offered to make a comprehensive plan for the promotion of Felix's studio and a month of work on the plan. Then if Felix liked her work, they would sign a contract. Felix looked at the girl with distrustful eyes. Fragile, very attractive looking. funny bangs and playful eyes. She did not look like a businesswoman, but her voice had such notes of confidence that he did not know how to behave. Felix decided to take the risk. At least all he was losing in case of failure was his time over her side. The woman didn't seem to expect any other answer. She asked permission to take the necessary pictures, interview the staff, and get the necessary information, including price lists. Thus began a new turn in Felix's life. Within a month, he could already see clear changes for the better, with a noticeable increase in clients. And after another month, when the site of his web studio got on the first page of search engines in key demand, he had to immediately hire more staff. During this time, Felix spent a lot of time hanging out with Mary and became increasingly fond of her. She constantly offered him something new, and it always worked. Soon, Felix realized that he could no longer see his life without Mary, who not only helped him boost his business, but also his own self-esteem. And then the day came when he invited Mary to a restaurant and proposed to her. To his surprise, Mary said yes, although Felix was very afraid of rejection. On the eve of the wedding, the doorbell rang. On the threshold was Beatrice. As soon as Felix opened the door, she took a step forward, as if to her home, but the man blocked her way. It turned out that Beatrice heard that the studio had grown. Felix recruited additional staff, and things were finally going well, and so she decided to return to him, as he had wanted a year ago. Felix coldly replied that this was impossible, because he was getting married tomorrow. Grinning, Beatrice offered to call off the wedding, but Felix asked her to just leave. Realizing that her ex-husband really wasn't kidding, the woman began to cry, begging for a chance to start over. But Felix was adamant. He had already given her a chance, but his ex-wife didn't take it, considering him a failure, and in fact, he was even a little grateful to her for that, because otherwise he would have never known what real love was. Felix said goodbye and slammed the door in front of a crushed Beatrice. And back in his room, he dialed Mary's number and thanked her for having him in his life, and promised that she would never regret the fact that fate had brought them together.